Today in the Off Her Tree podcast, I am joined by Kenneth Clifford, aka the Wandering Monk. Kenneth has been profoundly touched by the teachings of Jesus as presented in A Course in Miracles. By the grace of God, many transformative experiences came to enable Kenneth to hand his life over and to share the message of unconditional love. Kenneth's mission is for everyone to experience the love of God and to share in the joy, laughter, peace, and deep stillness that abides within. Kenneth is blessed with joy and wants to share this with the world as we laugh away all fear together. What a great way to get rid of fear, by laughing.
Yeah, it's the only way.
Don't forget to laugh.
Yeah, never forget to laugh. Bill Thetford.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So, I would really love to start, I guess,
Mm.
at the beginning of your journey, sort of prior to the course, maybe a little bit about and obviously you were a psychotherapist and sort of your background and sort of where you were at in the mind before the course arrived.
Mm. Yeah, well, none of this was really my life.
Mm,
Before all of that, I just had a normal life going along. I did many things. I did building work first of all,
okay.
fitting windows, all sorts of different things like that. Yeah, just normal things. And then, uh, and then obviously, then the course sort of came along. And that really sort of changed everything. But previous to that, through the psychotherapy training, um, I had some experiences through that were unexplainable to me. And through the psychotherapy, it was like, wow, perception is really different. So I wanted to get to the bottom of what this new perception was. And through the psychotherapy, it was really about healing. And so I wanted to help heal people, but I realized that I was the one that needed healing, and
Is
there
that
was
like
no one else to heal.
the unhealed healer aspect?
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. It's a sort of start, isn't it?
yeah.
To help others. I,
Mm,
I had my own psychotherapy, and it really, really helped me. And
mm,
then that's how it began, really. And
mm,
then I decided, wow, I want to become a psychotherapist. And of course, then the desire was to seemingly help others. But
mm,
then, of course, and then there was what is true healing. I think that's why the actual course came into my life,
mm,
because I was blessed. I trained in London, and we had some amazing therapists from around the world coming to us to train us and everything from America and everywhere. And I would ask them, how do we heal? And no one really actually knew. No one could really answer the question of how do we actually heal. So that was going to be like my master's was going to be, okay, right, let's find out how this healing occurs. And then the Course in Miracles came along. So it was kind of interesting, really. And then I realized, well, you're doing it to yourself. It is only you. There is no, Jesus says in his direct words, there is no other. And you're doing it to yourself. And it is this I would undo.
So, so
And then,
when the Course in Miracles arrived, how did that arrive, and sort of your first kind of ideas around that, around God and Jesus? It'd be good to get your kind
oh,
of
yeah.
what your initial ideas were around that.
Yeah. I wasn't really into God or Jesus at all.
Mm,
Spiritual things started to happen through the psychotherapy stuff. Yeah. It was like more sort of open to it. Yeah. And I
mm,
started to see correlations with the psychotherapy and everything. So the mind that I was interested in,
mm,
but definitely wasn't interested in God at all, and definitely wasn't interested in Jesus. That none of that was on the
mm,
cards, and really it was off the table. Yeah, in some respects, it was like, okay, I like this spiritual stuff, but there's God is not going to be coming anywhere near me. Thank you very much. Yeah. And I wouldn't have even thought about Jesus at that time. Like that was just like a no-no, yeah.
mm.
And then it was interesting. It was the Christmas before I found the course, and I'd been doing Buddhism, Hinduism, all those types of things. and doing a lot of meditation and learning about the gurus and the saints and everything like that. And then when it came down to Christmas time, and I thought, and then I felt a bit more open. I thought, well, who is Jesus? Who
Mm.
is he then, really? And then I sort of like looked past the Bible and looked into more sort of like alternative views, yeah. And it was like, oh, so he was this enlightened being that was just basically trying to help. Oh, well, that's pretty cool then, yeah. And so I warmed to that. And then at that time, that's when images of him started to appear. It was so funny. Like I was outside of a charity shop, and they had this massive like Jesus like picture, and I just turned. I was facing the other way like this at the shop, and then I just turned round, and there's this huge like Jesus picture, and as if his eyes are like looking at me, staring at me, and I'm just like eye gazing with this picture. And then I sort of like realized what I was doing. I was like, whoa. And then it just stayed in my mind. And then like many other things started to come, people talking about Jesus or other things, just all of a sudden, like Jesus started to come through that Christmas, yeah, a lot. And as you know, in England, really, like Jesus, even though it's his birthday, you don't see much. Maybe you do now. I don't know. I haven't been back in many years, but it's sort of like it dwindled when I was a child. There was a bit more Jesus, but then it just dwindled and it was like almost like gone. And then there was like a little bit in the shops, but really not much. So it's not like in our awareness sort of thing. So it was kind of crazy to see this massive Jesus picture at that time. And then it just stayed in my mind, that eye gazing experience. What was that? And then it was about 3 months later, I ended up going to, what's it called? Five Rhythms Dancing. And I
Oh,
was
I love
there.
five rhythms.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah, because the lady who did it was a Gestalt psychotherapist, Gabrielle Roth.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, she created it, and I trained at the Gestalt Center in London. And my friend was like, "Oh, you've got to come because it's all related to the psychotherapy stuff." And in the beginning, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not really into all of that." So it took her some like 2 months or something to really, it was to pluck up my courage to go, if I'm being honest. It was a bit
Yeah.
frightening. Like I was like, what,
Yeah.
dancing without drinking? That's a
I
bit
know,
crazy.
right? But first time I ever went to one, they said we're going to shut the doors for 2 hours. And I remember getting in there thinking, what do you mean I can't get out? And then there was all sorts going on in there which I'd never seen before. I was just like,
Mm,
this is a little bit far out for me. And yeah, similarly, sober dancing at that point was like, what's this? Got all this
yeah,
stuff going on.
yeah.
But also like phenomenal like journey with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, well, this was in London. This is the biggest group in London that meet on a Saturday night. There's like 80 people or something, and it actually goes on for 4 hours. Yeah. And so I did that, and it was like authoric. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. It was
Yeah.
like amazing. And I was like buzzing afterwards. And a small part of the group, they went for pizza afterwards, and it was kind of interesting. You had like these transcendentalists, you had like these Krishnas, you had all these different sort of like people that were into all different things, and it was like a lot of fun, really, listening to what everybody was interested in. And so it was about the second or third time I went to this dancing, and I bumped into this girl accidentally, and we sort of like danced. It was like the first time I sort of like danced with someone during the experience. Yeah, I wasn't that brave in the beginning. It just sort of like she just like appeared out, and I was like, "Oh my God, how has this happened?" And it was really funny because she was really, really shy. She was really, really shy, and she would hide in the corner, and she would just dance on her own in the corner. And then she sort of like looked around. It was like at the end of the evening, and everything was sort of like settling down. The energy was coming down. And so she sort of like looked around, she said, and she thought, oh, good, I can come out of my corner a little bit. And as she came out of her corner, I sort of like appeared. And then she was like, who are you? And I said, well, actually, I don't know. That's the whole point of, yeah. And she said, no, who are you? She wanted to know my name.
Oh,
And then she said something to me. She said to me, and at that time, I felt like my heart was closed off. And I've been reading about these different things. I didn't really understood what that meant. And I thought, yeah, my heart's really like closed off, to be honest. I don't feel open.
mm.
And she said to me, "Ah." So we sat down. It was literally like right at the very end, like our dance was the very end thing. And then we all sat in a circle. And obviously I was sitting next to her. And then that's when she asked me who I was. And then she said, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Yeah, sure." She said, "I think your heart is closed off, but I have the answer for you. It's called A Course in Miracles. It mentions Jesus, God, and the Holy Spirit, but don't worry, it's okay." Yeah.
Brilliant.
And by this moment, I'd warmed up to the idea of Jesus and God. So
Mm.
she said, "Oh, I'll send you some things." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, cool." So we exchanged numbers and we became friends. She lived near the dancing, which was really nice. And she would invite me round for tea and she'd bake cakes and things and we'd have tea and cake and then we'd go to the dancing. And she sent me all these things of these different teachers and I was not into it. I had a nice experience. I experienced peace, but I just thought, oh, this is just people this is Americans trying to make money. I'm not interested in this whatsoever. This is not my concept. Then it just like fell away. I listened to this webinar thing that these people did, and it went on for it was like a week webinar. Every night there was a teacher, and then you could listen to it, and it was like there was like an audio. It was like when that was sort of first beginning those types of things. It wasn't really that clever what they were doing compared to now, but they also recorded it so you could listen to it. And I did the whole thing, and I thought, yeah, it sounds nice, but it's not for me. And then 6 months later, um, my friend phones me up and says, "Do I want to go to this Course in Miracles thing?" I said, "Oh, no, it's not for me." She said, "Oh, it's in Spain," and she's Spanish. And she said it would be nice and sunny and, we can have a nice time and whatever. And so I looked out the window. I saw I'm in grey London and I'm like, 7 days in sunny Spain. Doesn't sound too bad. So I went. And then that's when I realized that it wasn't what I thought it was.
Mm.
It was the real deal.
So how long from sort of starting with the course and starting with the lessons, how long would you say it took to really start kind of healing the mind and letting sort of the darkness up and really allow feeling the love in your heart and then coming on to when you started to sort of hear the voice of Jesus as well?
Yeah. Well, literally on that first retreat was incredible because through the psychotherapy training, it'd been pretty intense. I was on a master's program and I ended up training for 7 years. And part of the Gestalt training is really you have to like open up. It's really about you and you have to share everything. You have to share everything that's going on with you, really. So I was sort of like used to that, and I'd already been in that process. And then when the course came along and this retreat, I sat there and I was meditating. I had no clue. I didn't even know it was I actually didn't know it was a book. I didn't know what it was really. I had no clue what it was. I
Mm.
just thought it was like some sort of movement, but I didn't know there was one
Oh,
book and
you
all of
mean
this
the
stuff.
course? You
I
mean that
knew
Course in Miracles? You didn't realize it
Yeah,
was a
yeah, I
book.
knew nothing.
Oh,
I didn't know anything
okay.
like that. I just did this webinar with these people and they never mentioned, oh, it's one book and all of that business.
Mm.
And so when I went along, the teacher was just like teaching so directly, yeah, and it felt like I was being like hit by the words straight away. And then really what I felt was all this energy sort of like coming up, like what you would call like darkness, like strong emotions inside of me. And yet I just felt like they were just being like lifted up off of me. And I was like, oh my God, this is like free psychotherapy here. How long would this take me to like even experience this? And that's what it felt like. It felt like I was going through this wave as soon as I walked through the door. And I didn't really know what was coming up. It was all sorts of different uncomfortable emotions, but it felt like literally they were coming up and they were just being released. And I was just feeling like freedom. I
Mm.
didn't understand the words, I didn't know anything about it. And we did like 4 days and including even starting the lessons and everything. I never even knew that there was lessons. I just went to that retreat and then I thought that was good. And then afterwards he did like a 9 day retreat in Spain again. And I just like booked on that. And he did a couple of things in the UK. So I just turned up to I just literally started turning up to retreats because I was more into experiences. And I did that for about 4 to 5 months, and then I realized that there was a book. Yeah, he was obviously reading from the he was reading from the book. Yeah, I knew he was reading from this book, but I didn't actually know. And they said, "Oh yeah, there's one book." I was like, "Oh well, that's pretty cool. One book. That's awesome." So I was having more experiences, and then they said, "Oh, so well, the book, what's in the book then?" Oh, well, there's a text, there's a workbook, and there's a manual for teachers, and then there's supplements. Oh, right, okay, yeah. So and then I asked the teacher, "Well, what should I do?" He said, "Well, just start with the lessons because that's the most practical thing." So then that's when I started with that, and then it was basically within the first year, out of nowhere. I was in one of the sessions and out of nowhere, like I felt I was just catapulted out of my chair, like just this energy just came up from nowhere. And then my heart just like opened up. And it was really interesting because while I was in the group, there were a couple of people who I disliked and whatever, my judgments around whatever was going on and this, that, and the other. And I sort of was catapulted out of the chair, and then my heart just like went, "Pop," and it was like overwhelming, yeah. And I looked at the people who I thought like, oh, at that time we've got
Not for
different
me.
interests
Not for
and
me.
whatever, yeah, whatever I had going on, yeah. And then all of a sudden I saw just like how loving they were, yeah, just this love. Like I was like I was seeing them for the first time, yeah, like wow, 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 this is amazing. And so that was then that was the actual first, although that had happened before, that happened to me in Buddhism. But this was the first time in A Course in Miracles. And it took about, yeah, it was about 9 months in, and then that happened. And then it felt like after that, it felt like the sort of floodgate gate opened, and then it started to ripple, and all these experiences came quite rapidly, one after another. For example, I think it's lesson 70. What's that lesson? Salvation. I can't remember, but
My only function.
no, it's only God's plan for salvation will work is number one, and can't remember. Anyway, they can check it out. Lesson 70, and in that lesson, he says, "And I will be holding your hand," and this is not metaphorical, yeah. And the first time I did that lesson, my hand went completely warm, and I was like feeling like someone holding my hand, and it was just incredible. And as soon as I started doing the lessons, um, I would like read the lesson and then I would lie down and then I would just feel all of this warmth all around me. And then I would just like lie there in this warmth and just feeling, yeah, just like being held almost. Yeah. And sometimes I would see light. I didn't realize that at the time, but everything was becoming brighter. And I didn't sort of really realize what was happening, if I'm being completely honest at that time. It was just nice to actually relax, yeah, in a deeper sense. So yeah, that was the start.
Ah, wow. So obviously you've been traveling for quite some time now in divine providence, being led, being guided where you need to go. So, how long have you been listening and following? When did you manage to kind of really be like, okay, this is it now. There's no choice. This is my life, and I'm going to dedicate it to God.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess when you realize that actually God was always talking to you, and whether you like it or not,
Mm.
God is talking to you. And God has always been there. Now I see it completely. God has always been there, in my life, without a doubt. With everything that's happened, it's impossible for it not to be. And it was
Like
just
everything
in,
placed, absolute
yeah,
perfection for you to awake.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To remember, He was always there in the background.
Mm.
Oh yeah, what was the question?
Yeah, just about like when you started following the guidance and when
Yeah,
you started hearing the guidance, maybe like
mm,
I know obviously you started hearing Jesus speaking and
yeah,
and when you kind of decided, right, well, this is it now, like sell up
yeah.
and
Oh
do
yeah,
this.
yeah. So I put it to Jesus when I got the course that I really, he describes unconditional love. So I said, okay, well then if this is true, then I really, really want that. And if I'm going to follow, then I'm going to need that. I'm going to need your promise as to what it is. And then it was, yeah, about a year and a half in now. And then that experience came, and incredible, just completely and utterly transformed everything. And that's what I saw. My whole sort of sense of self was being completely, I didn't actually notice it really. It was more other people like noticed it. It was like a friend out of the blue just rang me up and was like, hey, you seem so happy. We hadn't even spoken like ages. And she
Mm,
just rang me up and said, what's going on with you? And I thought, how does she even know this? And I said, well, I'm just doing this course in miracles. And she said, what's that? And then I would go and meet people and they would say, you seem different than what you were. You're different.
mm,
So this sort of thing was like happening in the background, yeah, that I wasn't even aware of. And then the love experience came, which completely engulfed me. And yeah, it's power beyond belief. It's beyond all of this world. And you see that this is completely and utterly meaningless. It really, really is meaningless. And this love is absolutely everything.
mm.
And
Yeah.
then when that happened, I thought, wow, it doesn't seem like not many seeming people know about this.
Mm,
And so I knew that, wow, this can be the greatest gift that I could ever offer. Yeah. So I will now dedicate my life to God. So this was a year and a half in. And then my whole life just collapsed easily. I had a business, I had a house, I had a car, the whole shebang. And it was simple. It didn't really take a lot from me. My friend had my car, the place was sold simply. Yeah, just everything just went. My business slowly started to fold in a beautiful way. Even letting go of being the psychotherapist was not like I thought it was going to be hard because I felt that was like my concept then. Like, okay, well, at least I'm doing something good, yeah, in the world now. And that was really supportive to me and really, really helped me amazingly. And so I thought, well, this is my job now. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life and evolve in that. But it then came to the point where I realized that it had to be everything. I knew that, and Jesus was really telling me that. He told me that early on. Like when I read the course, there's many parts that I could read, and it's like it's really all or nothing. It's not a sort of halfway to heaven, is it?
mm,
So I was like, wow, this is one hell of a commitment. And he's like, yeah, it's everything. I said, so basically you have to give everything to this. Oh yeah, you have to give everything. There's nothing else other than this. And
mm.
I'm like, wow, that's a really, really huge commitment. So in a way, once I read that, I was like preparing myself in a
Yeah.
way, thinking, okay, then I know that I have to give everything to this.
Mm,
And that's how that sort of, so in a way it actually wasn't that hard because yeah, when you have that love, you realize that like that is absolutely everything. And then you want that for everyone. You
mm.
want that for your family, you want that for your friends, you want that for straight, you don't care. You just think, oh my God, wow, how can anyone live their life without that? It's just complete, well, it's death. It's a death wish without it.
Well, that's it. I think it's obviously, if you're on a searching journey, you kind of have an idea that that might be what is available. But and then there's this idea of sacrifice, of having to, give it all up to get that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
actually, by doing the course and healing the mind and undoing the blocks, once you start to feel that love, I can imagine the blocks that are saying that would be difficult are
yeah,
actually removed and it all just
yeah,
does become easy. But it's only when we're coming from mind that
yeah.
then looks like, oh God, that looks a bit scary and a bit difficult. And how do you make that decision? Like, I'm guessing for you, it wasn't really a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't really make that decision. I
Yeah,
think that's where people get fearful in the Course in Miracles.
yeah,
They think that it's actually their decision. and then they're the one that's got to let go of their life. Yeah.
Mm.
When he says, we talked about this the other day, there is no life but God's.
Yeah.
Yeah. End of story. You have no life. There is no life. There is no you. There's
Mm.
nothing going on. You're not special. Your, what does he call it? Your superficial personality, as Jesus would say, is completely and utterly meaningless. But you're giving meaning to it, and you don't want to. You don't want to give it up. Yeah.
Even though
So
it's all suffering,
yeah, you'd rather
I really
suffer.
want to
So
keep
so
that. So worth it.
and it's different. It's different for everybody. That's what I see. It's a completely and utterly different. But when you're the one that's wanting to let go, and right, well, I've got to let go of this, and I've got to not have a job, and I've got to not. I never thought, even when all this like let go came, I never thought about leaving my family. I never thought about leaving my friends. I never thought about leaving my house.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it. It just started to happen.
Mm.
It was happening to me. So it wasn't really, really me letting go. It was like, wow, I think when you give like a deeper yes, you think, oh my God, I've just got to like follow this. And then, as he says, it will seem like things are being taken away. Yeah, they can seem like that, but really they're all meaningless as the greater plan, as the greater awakening for yourself. And we do not know our own best interests, and yet everyone comes with you. When you are healed, you are not healed alone. So you have to take that very seriously. But often we think, oh, this is the way that I want it. And okay, and this is what most people do. Most people say, okay, this is my life, Jesus, come into my life. And Jesus is like, well, actually, that's kind of like the opposite. You
Yeah.
need to give yourself to me, and I will give and take whatever, take away whatever's needed, and bring to you whatever you want. And that's the sort of scary part, where most people think, don't take these things away
Yeah.
from me.
Yeah, it's like the
But
special relationships and your kind of family, the family that's
yeah,
the loyalty to the family and all those
yeah,
ideas in this realm
that's
and I
it.
guess it can be seem scary to look at
Yeah,
that because of all the obligation and the people pleasing and
yeah,
the stuff that we've learned, which is love, which is it's
yeah,
not real love. Uh,
yeah,
so how I mean obviously you were traveling around a lot and how was it with family and friends? Like what did you find there was any kind of pushback for a while? When anybody like told
yeah,
you that you were absolutely losing the plot?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So in the beginning, like my mum couldn't believe that I was into God.
Mm,
He was like shocked, yeah, completely and utterly shocked. And but then slowly it was becoming more and more serious, and so they were more and more concerned. And it was funny, like I would have all different sort of like family members out of the blue ringing me up, or like saying, "How can we meet up?" And then them trying to convince me. But the thing was, by this point, like, because I had a business, I had all these things, yeah, and then they're like, come on, like you've just like everything's like great, good, seemingly good for you. Why would you be throwing this away? So it made no sense. I had a nice place in the countryside, yeah, Flintstone cottage, yeah, like really beautiful. Can just walk out into like nature, just amazing. My life was amazing. Um, as I said, not extravagant, but everything was everything was good. I could go out for a meal, do what I wanted within what I want in this world. So it was good, and it was only sort of like progressing on, and then I'm like, wow, this is so meaningless. But to me, it was like to even think about a car was just like crazy in my mind, and to see a house was just so strange to me after those experiences. Like, what is this really? What it means nothing. And so, yeah, many came, but no one could convince me. And that was the difference, I think, when you're trying to convince them and you haven't, and you've not really accepted it for yourself. I accepted it. I was like, oh my God, God is real. It's absolutely real. Like as I shared with you, I thought people were mad who thought about God and that. I thought they're just nuts. They're
mm,
just off their heads. They have no clue. But
Until
when it happened, I'm like, oh my God, this is realer than anything else. So no one could really convince me. But the incredible thing that happened is when I decided, like, okay, this is I would write long emails to my mum and dad to really, really prime them, yeah, and say, yeah, my life is not my own any longer, and this is the direction that I'm going in. I knew conversation would be pretty challenging, yeah. So I thought, okay, email would be the best to get this ball rolling and really, really lay it out so they can sort of like start to take it in. Like, I'm not going to be available. This is for everyone. And this is actually so when I started to feel this way, I said to Jesus, okay, if I'm going to follow you, you promise me you're going to take care of everyone. And he said, I promise. So I said, okay, I'll do it. So and I knew that he would. And he said, yeah, but you've got to keep coming in this direction. So okay, fine. So then I knew. So it was like a done deal for me. It wasn't hard, but then obviously it was going to be hard for them for me to say, yeah, you can't really count on me as a family member any longer. I'm with God, and I will be led wherever He needs me to go in the greater plan. It's not some, yeah, in special, if you want to call it that, relationships. It's really serving the whole to enter into a deeper relationship.
and you were saying that when you were traveling around, you just found that people would just arrive, so you'd kind of
Mm,
get a nudge to go somewhere,
yeah.
and then you would arrive. Where was it you said that you were? It was everybody was seemed to be quite fearful, like there was a lot of fear. I remember you were telling a story
Mm.
about you were traveling, and there was a lot of stuff. I think it was around sexual harassment and stuff.
Oh yeah, that was in the UK. Yeah, yeah. When I came back there, all on the tubes that had call this number for sexual harassment. And it
Yes.
was like, wow, like I hadn't been back to the UK in like 4 years at that point. And I came back and I'm on the tube, got my suitcase, and I'm like, whoa, this is really intense. And I could
Fear,
feel
fear,
those
fear.
feelings of like,
Yeah.
yeah, like the male female, it was mainly the male female sexual harassment thing going on. I was like, and I'd felt like really sort of like more open, yeah. And it made me think, oh my God, well, you better be mindful, yeah. And then I thought, no, this is not why I can't, but I'm not, I don't need to change anything. Whatever I think, feel, and do is coming from him. That is that is my sole desire. So it must be for the good. So I have to transform this. So it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I had my first opportunity, as I shared with you, because I got off the tube. I got off at like where was it, like Paddington or somewhere like that, and we went and got a coffee, just queuing up, well, seemingly queuing up. And I thought I was like the first in the queue because the lady shouted out, "Who's next?" And I said, "Yeah, me." And then there was actually a whole queue of people, and they went, "We're before you," like that. And there was this woman in front. She said, "I'm actually before you." And I put my hand on her shoulder and, "Oh, sorry, my love." Yeah. And she just turned around and had this like big smile on her face, yeah. And I just smiled. And then I'd realized what I did. Like, obviously, I just like touched her, just, friendly. And I was like, yeah, there you go. Like, we don't have to live in this fear. Yeah, when you truly come from, because we laughed about it. I was like, oh my God, I thought it was me. Yeah, like there's me like trying to get to the front. But she saw that wasn't my intention. I just, yeah. And then it's like, no, you don't really have to buy into that. That's the whole point. Be in the world, but not of the world.
Yeah.
You can see many things out there, but that's not really who you are.
But that's it, isn't it? It's like, when you're being having things rammed down your throat all the time around what's wrong, i.e. connection.
Yeah.
Oh, awful.
Yeah.
It's like you could be in a fearful state of mind there and be like, ooh,
Yeah.
don't look at anyone. And that's how
Yeah.
everybody's becoming more and more
Yeah.
closed off. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it,
right.
it is about being the light, isn't it? It is about saying, no, I don't choose that. I don't choose
Yeah.
that. Not for
Yeah.
me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, gorgeous. So I think you were telling me, you've told me a few stories. There's a couple of things that I wanted to get onto. I think one of the ones was about, you mentioned that you'd just suddenly found that people started asking you about God,
Mm,
and like just
mm,
the beautiful things that happened around that, and
mm,
as you've been traveling, and how
mm,
those kind of conversations opened up. I guess like what you'd class as a miracle, really.
mm, mm. Yeah, well, when I travel, my prayer is for miracles, healing, and to serve the whole. That's the only reason why I'm doing it, is to remember that I'm dreaming. So there's nothing really to get. And then, like for example, in the UK or in Europe, it's always said, "Oh, they're not so open to all these ideas." I never talk about the ideas because it's not for me to. I'm not here to tell anybody about anything and what they should believe in or whatever. Everybody's completely free to do their own thing. But this is the interesting thing, that it just would come to me. So,
Yeah.
for example, I was sitting on a train. I'm dressed completely normally. I actually had a hooded jumper on. And I'm just sitting there like a tourist. I'm on the train, and I sit next to this woman. She's doing all her thing on the computer for about 2 hours, and suddenly she finishes, and then we just start laughing because she was like grateful that she finished whatever she was doing. And I said, "Oh, what have you been doing?" And she said, "Oh, I'm writing a screenplay. I'm in the television business." I'm like, "Oh yeah, I write comedies." And I said, "Oh, okay, that's nice." And then she said to me, "Can I ask you a question?" So I never said. So she said, "Oh, what are you doing?" I just said, "Oh, I'm just traveling."
Mm.
I kept it. I didn't say anything. I said, "Oh, I'm just traveling." So she said to me, "Do you want a coffee?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So she got up and went and got two coffees and came back. And then she came back and she said to me, "Can I ask you a question?" And I goes, "Yeah, sure." She goes, "Are you a monk?" And I goes, "Well, yeah, you could say that." She goes, "Yeah, I thought you were." Within 10 minutes, she said, "If ever you want to stay at my house, you're more than welcome, but I've got 10 cats." I said, "Yeah, that's not a problem." And then we just started talking about God. And wherever I've gone, wherever I am, you can sit anywhere, and I sit next to someone, and the next minute I never mention anything. I always just say I'm traveling. So I'm just traveling. And they're like, "Okay." And then they bring the conversation to me, and then that's when I can share it. But here's an amazing story that I never told you about.
Go
Went
on.
to when I went to the UK, I came back. This was after the 4 years, and it was Christmas time.
Mm.
And then obviously my mum thought I was going to be coming to Christmas for her because I hadn't been there in 4 years. She's like, "Oh, because she always knows to invite me because in case I'm doing something." But it seemed more obvious that, okay, now this time it's been 4 years. I'm sure he's going to be coming. And I'm like, "No, I can't," because there's a lady, a friend of mine in Devon, and she really needs my support. So I feel like that's the most important direction for me to go in. Yeah. So obviously it was it was sort of like disappointing for her. And then, luckily enough, messaged you had a conversation with Anna. Anna was the one that said to me, "Hey, maybe tell your mum the reason why you're going." Yeah. So I told her that her husband had died, and there were many things, and this was like going to be the first year that she was going to celebrate Christmas in her house on her own. And my mum was like, "Oh my God, you must go then." Yeah. So
Mm.
she understood. So this became the miracle, but the miracle was bigger than that. So me and Anna from Portsmouth, we had to go to London, then we had to go to Devon. So it was a big old trip during Christmas. And so we went down there. We had an incredible time. It was this beautiful healing time, amazing, incredible for us, really magical time for us all together. So it was completely obvious that that was the place that was needed. And then I was coming back like on the 28th, 29th of December, and I thought, "Oh, the roads will be fine. Yeah, it's going to be like it's Christmas and everyone's just whatever." But it wasn't. The roads were completely and utterly busy. And so this was Jesus's plan. He gets me and Anna on the bus, and we're coming along, and all of a sudden we're like, "Are we going to make it to our bus to London at 3 o'clock or whatever it was?" Yeah, I think it was 3 o'clock. Spoke to the driver. He said we might just make it, but then the traffic just got more and more and more. What the hell's going on? So I've never ever missed anything in traveling. Yeah, everything's always been completely orchestrated. So
Mm.
Anna said, "What's going on? We've never ever missed anything, right?" And I said, "Jesus must have a plan. He must want us somewhere." So yeah, we missed that. we missed that bus by like an hour. We were like, we got back, and Anna was on her app, and she looked at all the buses to Portsmouth, and it was like full, full, full for the next three, and the next one would be like 9 o'clock. And because we were coming back on this time, my mum had invited the family and were doing a special meal for us all to come together. And again, hello, look who's not going to be there.
Oh God.
So it's like, okay, so we had good old Mumsy's got the old dinner on the go, and I'm not I'm not available again. It looks like
Big banners, Kenneth's back.
yeah, there's no buses. There's no buses. Like, okay, what the hell are we going to do? They're all booked, so we couldn't even book the bus. So we get to what, Victoria Station, and we're looking around. I haven't been in London in years. I've obviously I haven't been in the UK. I really didn't know what we were doing. We ended up in the wrong queue, queuing up to find out for the buses. But that was another little helpful thing because there was this Indian guy, and he had no clue where he was going. And he said, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me where?" Like this, and I knew he was from India because I'd been to India. He was like, whatever he was doing. And he said, I'm going to wherever, I'm going to Coventry. And I was like, yeah, hold on a minute. Oh my God, you've got to go at this end. So I took him all the way. I said, I'll take you there. So I took him all the way up to the end, and he found his queue. And then I came back. Then we realized we were in the wrong queue. And we had to go to another queue to see like what we could do with the buses. But this was all part of it. We finally there's like another massive queue. We're just like waiting there. Okay, what the hell do we do? It's going to be this 9 o'clock. Just as we get to the person, yeah, she says, "Where are you going?" Says, "We're going to Portsmouth." Right? She doesn't say anything. She just picks up her phone and she goes, "We've got another two for the bus." This bus has appeared out of nowhere and is going to be going in 2 minutes. She goes, "Go to lane one now." Yeah. So she puts the phone down, and lane one isn't actually far from us. It's like 20 meters, thank God, because obviously it's pretty big down there. It's like 30 lanes, and it's like the first one. Well, as we come walking along this way, and they normally have these glass doors where the buses are stopped, yeah. And the bus driver's coming along here. The bus is actually loaded up. It's going directly to Portsmouth. So God knows why this is happening because it shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, this bus has appeared out of nowhere. There's a queue of people still waiting, and he's got 4 spaces on his bus. Yeah, there's a queue of people here. Me and Anna are walking along here. As the bus driver's coming this way, the doors undo, and he goes, "I got room for 4 more." And I goes, "That's me." And he goes, "Yep, right." So everyone was like this, and we go, "Come here." So we like walk right in front, and he goes, "You won't be able to sit together." Said, "Don't care." So we put our stuff on the bus, and I end up sitting next to this guy, and Anna sits in front of me, and we sit there, and he goes, "All right, mate." So we start like chatting, and he said, "Oh, I've had a right day of it." And I said, "Oh, what happened?" He said, "Well, first of all, my because it's like Christmas." He said, "Well, my my son and my daughter-in-law were going to take me to the bus station, but they were both completely hungover. Yes, they couldn't. And then my sister, what's her daughter-in-law said she was going to make me turkey sandwiches, but she didn't get up. I've had no food and all this stuff." I was like, "Oh yeah." And he said, "And then when I was on my first bus, we were driving along, and then there was a disabled person on it. They took out the ramp, and they couldn't put the ramp back in." Yeah, right. So they're just like stranded. They had to go and get another bus, and that's why he was on this bus. Otherwise, we wouldn't have met. So he said, "So this all happened. Then I've been waiting here for like three. He'd been waiting there for like 2 hours." And now, finally, this bus out of nowhere coming directly from Victoria, directly down to Portsmouth in one hit, going to take like an hour and a half. And now we're like on it. So I says, "What?" And he was from like Essex or something like this. And I was like, "What are you doing going down to Portsmouth then?" I mean, who goes to Portsmouth? What's the point in that? And he goes, "I got cancer." And I goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I've got lung cancer." And I was like, "Oh yeah." So we started talking a bit, and he said, "Oh, my wife's suicidal and all this lot." So I just told him, I said, "Oh yeah, I used to be a psychotherapist." That's what I said. And then he said, "Oh yeah," he said, "My wife's suicidal. What?" He said, "What would you recommend then?" And I said, "There's only one thing to recommend." And he goes, "What's that?" And I said, "Love. Love is the answer to everything." And he was like, and then he sat back and he was like, "Yeah, exactly." And then we just like started talking about that, and we talked for the whole time. And then about 20 minutes into our conversation, he goes to me, "Can I ask you something?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you believe in Jesus?" I goes, "Yeah, I believe in Jesus." And I thought, here we go, this is it. And he
Wow.
goes, and he said, and I said, "Yeah." I said, I've been traveling around. So I started sharing all of my miracles. I thought, okay, this is to boost him up. He said, "Yeah, well, tomorrow I'm going in for my operation. I'm on my own. I'm staying in a hotel. It's a bit like heavy duty." Yeah. And I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So I started sharing all of these miracles, what I've seen, people being healed, all sorts of different things. He's like, "Oh my God." He goes, "Do you think this can happen to me?" I went, "For sure it can happen to you. I believe fully. Jesus can do anything. If you believe, it makes no difference to him. Even if you don't believe, actually, it doesn't really make any difference." And he was like, "Wow." And it was so funny. So for about an hour, I just poured him with his stuff. And when I first met him, his skin was really grey. Yeah. He didn't look good. But then he was just being lifted up by this. Me and Anna had food in our thing. And I was like, "Here, have my turkey sandwich." He went, "I can't have your turkey sandwich." I went, "Have my turkey sandwich." And I got told, and I goes, "Here's the brownie." I goes, "I was told this is the best brownie in Devon. Have that." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, have that. We've got plenty." So we were like feeding him, and he was so like grateful. And then he said, "Oh, I've got to phone. I've got to find my hotel and everything." I went, "Don't worry about that." So I rang up my dad. I said, "Hey, listen, can we take my new mate John? He needs to find his hotel." So he said, "Yeah, where is it?" We didn't even know. It was like, because obviously, why would I need a hotel in my hometown? So, well, I don't even know where it is, but we'll find it. "Yep, John, you're coming with me." So he's like, "Okay, great, thanks so much." And yeah, I was just sharing all these miracle stories. And then his friend, he was part of a church as well. And his friend from the church, all of a sudden he goes, "It's my friend." And he goes, "Hello." He goes, "You're not going to believe what's happened." He goes, "Yeah, yeah, I'm fine." And he starts telling the story. "Yeah, she never got up, made my turkey sandwiches." He starts telling all the story. "Yeah, yeah. But lucky enough, I met this bloke here and he's helping me out." Yeah. And he goes, "Anyway," he goes, "I gotta go. He's got another miracle story for me. I'll tell you all about it." Yeah. And he puts the phone down. So for this hour and a half, he just gets showered with unconditional love. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is why we were completely and utterly delayed. He was delayed, and then we had to meet. And then I'm sitting next to him. It's just completely nuts." Yeah. And then you'd think about, hey, if I'd have said, "Good old mumsy, oh, I've got to have Christmas dinner with mum," then this would have never have happened. Yeah. So I have this miracle trip. Anna's sitting in front of me, just being completely lifted up by everything that's being shared. She's like, "Wow, this is why we're here." And then we get to my dad. I says, "I'll take your bag," because he had this bag and everything. And we put it all in the car. And it turns out this actual hotel is not even far from my house. So yeah, we take him there, and we get out of the car, and he like hugs me like he's like my grandfather or something. He goes, "Thank you so much," and he like proper gives me like this huge hug. And then Anna gets out and says, "I want to hug you too," and so she gives him a hug. Yeah, so I gives him my phone number, gives it, I said, "Anything you need, we're completely available." And he goes, thank you very much." I went, "Don't worry, John, everything's going to be fine." And boom, on he goes on his way. So when we got back, and then because of this now, I end up on time for the dinner. I should have been there. I should have been there an hour. It would have worked out that I would have been there an hour before the dinner. So now, the dinner was like at 7 o'clock or whatever it was, whatever time it was supposed to be. I got there literally at the dinner. So everything all went from. So Jesus arranged time and space and said, "I've got a mission for you on the way home, and don't worry, I'm going to organise anything." And it was like, anyone on there, have a look it up. I've never ever heard of a bus going directly, no stop, directly to Portsmouth. Like, I have no idea about all of that.
Oh, God.
So just amazing. So like when you be a miracle worker for him, he will arrange time and space for you. And really, that has nothing to do with anyone else. It's just to remind me that this is an illusion and this is not real. And obviously the time and space is being used for that. And when you hear something like this, you think, how is this happening? It's not really about meeting anyone or doing anything or whatever, but it's just like it's an illusion. It's not real. There's nothing here to grasp onto. But you're going to be given wherever to give the message of love to yourself will be available. So I got to sit and share the message of love that I needed for an hour and a half before I ended up with my family.
It's interesting though what you're saying about how you don't like actively go in with God. Like I think
Yeah.
God's with you all the time, but I find that interesting because I think sometimes when I know for me, especially when I started doing the course and stuff,
Mm.
giddy, get a bit giddy with it and a bit like wanting to
Yeah.
tell everyone about it, and
Yeah.
also not realizing like that there might be some ego in that. Um,
Yeah.
and trying to own it from the ego's perspective and look at me now,
Mm.
I'm doing all this, so it's
Mm.
like it's interesting to see that you kind of sit back and just allow it to unfold
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
possible rather than thinking that you need to lead with that because not
Yeah.
everyone's ready for it, are they?
Mm. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the amazing thing that I've learned. I will step back and let him lead the way. I have no idea what needs to be healed. I have no idea about anything. But whatever's coming in and around you is all for healing. Yeah, but it's his plan. It's not my plan. So I told you that story about that guy, didn't I? He was a next door neighbor of a friend of mine. And then he's got nothing to do with that. And he was like, "Oh, I'm not into God or anything." He knew that I was, but we never ever talked about it. And we just kept bumping into each other in the garden. And we would just have a chat about life, politics, whatever was going on. What did I think about this in the world, whatever. And we would have these conversations. And every time we would come back together, he would say, "Oh, I thought about what you said." And he had interest in it. And I said, "Actually, I thought about what you said." And we would always have these conversations. Not once was God or anything mentioned. And I was seeing him over this week. And then finally, I was doing the retreat in his area. And then he said, "Could I come?" He said, "I'm not really into this, but could I come?" He said, Every time I'm around you, I feel happy. Could I come?" I said, "Well, yeah, if you want to come, come." And he came and he was incredible. He did everything that I said. I was saying about giving. This woman needed a room. He said, "You can come and stay with me." Then he had miracles with her. Then another thing happened. He said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, you told us to be available." He made himself available and started having all these incredible experiences. There were 35 people doing a course. Well, there was like with him, 35. So there was 34 people, all been doing a course in miracles for a long time. Someone reached out their hand, said, "Hey, I need help." Not one of them said a thing. I was like, "Okay, here's your opportunity, people, for your miracle." And not one of them said anything. He hadn't even read the book. He heard me saying, "Be available." And he said, "I'll do it." And he did everything. And then the next day he said, "Oh my God," I had all these miracles. He didn't really call them miracles, but he just told me about these experiences and he was getting happy. So then the next day he wanted to talk to me and he said, "I haven't got any purpose in life." So we started talking about that and he got lifted up. We talked for about 3 hours. And then that night he went to bed and he decided, "Okay, well then I'm just gonna do what he says. Maybe there is help. Maybe there is." He felt that there was something, but he didn't want to name it. So he just thought, well, why not? Why not reach out to Jesus? How do I know? So he just said, he sat in his bed, he closed his eyes, and he said, "Jesus, God, Holy Spirit, ancestors, anyone come to me." Nothing happened. He did it a second time. Nothing happened. So he said on the third time, "Okay, I'm going to do this one more time and then that's it. Jesus, God, Holy Spirit, if you're out there, come to me." And then he said, all of a sudden, I felt this energy coming into my heart. And then I was engulfed in light. And then he, don't know how long it lasted. Then he opened his eyes. I thought, whoa, what just happened? He closed his eyes. He went back into the experience. And then the experience happened 3 times. Then I saw him the next day. He came up to me, complete atheist. I mean, whatever. He comes up to me, he goes to me. He's like, he looks a bit white as well, like, because he's a bit shocked. Yeah. So I didn't know whether he's like freaking out over something. Yeah. He was like in sort of like an awe experience. Yeah. And he was like, he comes up to me like wide eyed and he goes, he just looked at me. The first thing he said, he goes, "You were right." And I goes, "Right about what?" And he goes, "God is real." And I goes, "What happened then?" And then he told me, "Oh, God has come into my life. Oh my God, I never thought that. This is immense." And this is the ones that I love. I love, to be honest, the people who don't do A Course in Miracles, because then you have so many amazing experiences because you don't have to talk about it. And I know that Jesus is just, well, I call it Jesus as a symbol. You can call whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really make any difference. It's just life energy, really, just healing. And and then it all is naturally going to start happening from that. So I have no control over who he's going to touch. He doesn't care. Are you a Christian? Oh, well, you can't follow Jesus. Jesus doesn't care about any of that. He just touches everyone. You don't need to mention it. You don't need to mention God. He says it in the course anyway. To belief in God is not necessary to even do this course. So it's all irrelevant. It's just your desire to actually be truly helpful and to, be part of this whole dismantling of the world. And then these ones just come out of the woodwork for whatever purpose, and then they are shown something, but that's down to him, not down to me.
So do you find that sort of in those situations, let's say, somebody's just opening up to you about, cancer or whatever,
Yeah,
feel like in that moment you're connecting and you're kind of saying, show me, or are you just
yeah.
now where you just constantly like in communion and the messages are just coming through loud and clear?
Yeah, so yeah, that's it. Like as soon as it doesn't matter wherever you are, you never know what's going to be happening. So you're always completely and utterly prayerful. So as soon as I sit next to that guy, for example, on the bus, like I know I'm here for a reason. It's obvious that I'm here for a purpose. So there's nothing like just sitting back and just, oh well, I'm just relaxing today because, there's nothing really to do. It's like, okay, well, why have I been sent here? So then I'm just being with that. I'm not really thinking about helping anyone or even engaging. I wasn't like, oh, hello, trying to make a conversation with someone. Oh, who can I save today? It's not really like that. It's just, yeah, you, yeah, it's just, okay, I'm available. So I just make myself available in my mind. Okay, I'm available. And then whatever needs to happen, needs to happen. Sometimes it is for me to rest. Yeah. Like I might be on a bus and nothing happens. And it's just like a restful, peaceful time because there's more to be done, but I'm completely and utterly available. And then when you're available, everything happens from that for your own mind. Really, you're just available for your mind. You're not available for others. This is the confusion. It has nothing to do with others. You're available for the mind. Yeah. And then whatever needs to be healed in my mind naturally comes. But it has nothing to do with really anyone else. That's the hilarious thing. But it seemingly will that I needed to meet this one to heal my mind. Good old John thought that I was helping him. He actually helped me. And now look at the ripple effect that's coming along now through his story is continuously going out and out and out and thinking, wow, that seems pretty otherworldly. How does that even happen? When it looked like as a bad day, we're missing buses and all this business. Yeah, it could have been pretty stressful. But in actual fact, okay, well then the Lord needs me somewhere. So that's all it is. And I might not even know, as Jesus says in 109, I rest in God. A bird begins to flap its wing. A stream that was all dried up begins to flow. You don't know where the miracle, as we speak right now, someone could have just, raised up from their chair who couldn't walk. We have absolutely no idea of whatever's happening. Someone who was sad, depressed, has just become happy in this um, configuration of us speaking. We have no idea about that miracle. Yeah, we will never ever know what we're literally doing right now. And sometimes you get to see reflections and sometimes you don't. But if you're not available for the miracle, then obviously nothing's going to happen. But you just have to be constantly available for that.
So how do you, say decide is probably the wrong word, but with reference to where you're going to go? How does that guidance come through? Do you ever just kind of get a feeling of like, oh, I want to go to Mexico? I mean, obviously you're in Mexico, but
Yeah,
I feel like I want to go here, or I want to go to the beach, or are you always kind of saying, okay, where do you want me? Where do you want me? What?
yeah,
And do you sometimes have to kind of really wait until you
yeah.
get an inkling of what you want to do, and then it's just like, I'm not sure, I'm going to wait, and then go.
Exactly. Yeah, there's nowhere for me to go here. I have no interest in traveling around the world doing any of these things. We
Mm,
never do sightseeing or whatever. Sometimes it happens with the people who we meet, but half the time I go to these places and we just stay in their houses. We do this healing and then we go. And then the people say, "Oh, it's a really beautiful town there and you can do all this." I said, "I have no idea. I never saw a thing." Yeah.
yeah.
And they said, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that." And it's like, that's not my life. So I have nothing else other than this. There's no desire to do something in this world, to go anywhere whatsoever. It makes no difference to me. So I don't even know why I get sent to places, yeah, but I do. And most of the time it just comes from invites. People hear me talk. I don't even know why they like hearing me. I have no idea about all that either, yeah. But they seemingly hear me and then they invite me and say, come here. And then I feel it, I speak to them, I feel the commitment. It has to be a very deep commitment. Okay, if I'm coming, then we're really sort of like doing this, so it's pretty deep what we're doing. Yeah, yeah, I'm up for it. Okay, then that's how it goes. And then from that, this is how it really happens. And then you go there, and then I have no desire to go anywhere else. And then their friends come and, hey, will you come and stay with me? Okay, I'll come and stay with you. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, this is just what's happening.
Mm,
And out of nothing, people find my phone number, people find all sorts of things when I've had nothing. Like when the road runs out, I don't do anything. I don't start phoning up people thinking, "Oh, should I do something?" This
yeah.
is this is the difference. There's nothing. If he wants, my friend said it, which is true. If he wants me on the streets, then I will go on the streets. Father, my life is yours. I have nothing here. There is nothing here for me to earn or gain, but whatever you will be my will. And then from that, everything will come absolutely from that. So yeah, at times we've had literally nothing and we have to keep sitting back and you have to face that fear and you start to see you want a roof over your head, you want a fluffy pillow, you want all of these things, yeah? And you think that it brings you happiness. You want a body close to you or someone you know, someone to speak to. But when you do these types of things, it's like, okay, you have to take the hands off of the wheel and say, okay, I'm going to have to face the absolute fear. That's the teachings of A Course in Miracles. I am under no laws but God's. You think you're under all these laws. And so, how are you going to do that? You have to face it. You have to literally face it. You can't just talk about these things. You can't go around talking about A Course in Miracles unless you actually truly experience it. So it's like really, really, you have to face that fear. And of course, you'll never be left. If you're under his guidance, you will not be left. So there's no doubt about that. But you have to have the guts, to be honest, to face the fear of what comes up from all of that. And then you'll see incredible, miraculous things. So many times. Had I jumped in, I could have. Now I know so many people, right? So I could just ring someone up and they're going to say, yeah, you can come and stay with me. But I don't want to just stay with somebody. I'm going there for a purpose. I don't, yeah, well, I've got a roommate, come and sleep at my house. Who cares? No, that's not what that's not my life. Yeah. You're being sent, you're being led. I'd rather stay on the streets than do that. It's completely it's meaningless, yeah. Just to want some sort of comfort. It's like, no, where do you want me? Where is the greatest healing? And then it literally comes. And so many times I've had to sit tight, I've had to sit tight, I have nothing. I'm almost on the streets. And then all of a sudden, boom, it happens. And then it opens up doors that you could never ever imagine. And you think, wow, where did all that lot come from? Because he has the people that you have to meet. I've traveled up and down Europe for free, all the way from the north to the south for nothing, and spent a penny. And I just met people, and then before you know it, they want to help in this. So everything actually wants to support you. That's actually the difference. This when life is about you getting something and, oh, being a you could be a course teacher. I get this all the time. Hey, I want to put on gatherings, but not many people are coming. I said, well, listen, I don't even think of that. I don't really care. I don't know why they want to come and see me. I have no idea. That's just what's happening. But that's not my desire and it's not my goal. My goal is God. And then from that, everything comes because you don't really have a desire for anything. But yet it all starts to naturally happen.
The channel, aren't you? You are the channel to be, rather than thinking, okay, this is the desired outcome. You're
Yeah, that's
just
it.
the channel and you're being, which is
Yeah,
amazing, amazing.
yeah.
So speaking of being placed places, and you've got, I think, a couple of things in potentially coming up. Germany,
Yeah, many things.
yeah,
Um,
and then there's the festival in, I think, September. The
yeah, UK festival. Yeah, everyone should go to that.
So what's the one in Germany? Where is the one in Germany, and what's that one about?
I think I got told it's near Frankfurt. That's how it all started. The ACIM festival started there. My friend Andreas Prohl, amazing, incredible, yeah, experiences. I highly recommend it.
Sorry.
If you're in Europe, it's the place to be. Yeah, that's what I say. It's the big thing for A Course in Miracles, without a doubt. There's nothing else going on in Europe than that, really. That's the mothership.
That in April,
Uh,
that one in April.
that's going to be in June, the first weekend in June. I think it's like the 7th and 8th. So I highly recommend that. I was invited to speak there last year. That was my first one, and it was awesome. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I'm blessed again that Andreas invited me back again this year. And then you've got the UK, I think it's like the 17th. Then he decided, he heard to do a festival in the UK. And I was a part of that. I won't be speaking there, but we spoke about it and everything, and it's been moving forward. And yeah, there's going to be a festival in the UK. So an incredible, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome in a beautiful place in Derbyshire.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm just really lucky. I mean, as I said, I'm not really in the UK that much, so I don't even know anyone there really, but it's going to be amazing. So if you're there and you want to experience something, then I highly recommend going because you will have an incredible experience, like a 4 days. It will be life changing.
Yeah, I'm going to do the whole thing for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then I'm going to be traveling. Yeah, I'm going to be back in Europe in April. Um, but this is the interesting thing is normally it's like it's very, very spontaneous. My whole life since the travels has been very spontaneous. But now things are getting pretty booked up. So I'm literally booked up till August. So I'm going to be in Switzerland, Austria, potential Italy, potential UK, Spain, um, potentially France. So there's many things, but I'm going to be in and around Europe from April to August, all across from the north to the south.
Uh, Well, I'll definitely see you.
Yeah, yeah, there's some amazing things happening. We've got an amazing one. If you want to do something, some of them are already fully booked, but there's one. If you want to go to Berlin, it's just outside Berlin for Easter, will be amazing. That
Right.
I'm really looking forward to. And my friend Andreas Schultz's house, and it's incredible. It's an amazing place in the middle of the countryside, and that is going to be epic.
Lovely. Brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so
Yeah,
much for all of that. Thank you for the chat.
always.
Really, really loved it. I loved our chat last time as well. And
Yeah,
I'm
me
sure
too.
we'll really get a lot from everything that you've shared. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Natalie. Thank you so much.